The towering spires of Vora Prime's capital city pierced the ever-crimson sky, a testament to the technological brilliance of the warrior women who ruled this world. Commander Nira strode through the halls of the Grand Tribunal, her armored boots clicking against the polished onyx floors. Her slender yet formidable form, encased in sleek combat armor, radiated an aura of deadly precision. As she entered the circular chamber, the 7 members of the tribunal turned their piercing gazes upon her. Nira suppressed a shiver. Even for a seasoned warrior like herself, the combined scrutiny of Vora Prime's most powerful women was enough to unsettle anyone. "Commander Nira," intoned High Adjudicator Celis, her voice as sharp as a blade, "you have been summoned to undertake a mission of the utmost importance to our dominion." Nira inclined her head respectfully. "I am honored to serve, High Adjudicator." "What is my objective?" A holographic projection flickered to life in the chamber's center, revealing a small blue-green planet, Terra. "Our long-range surveillance has identified this remote world as a prime target for conquest," Celis continued. "Your task is to lead a reconnaissance mission. Gather intelligence on their defenses, assess their technological capabilities, and identify key strategic points for invasion." Nira's pulse quickened. This was the moment she had been waiting for, a chance to prove herself among Vora Prime's elite. "I will not fail you, High Tribunal," she declared, standing tall. "Your ship and crew await you in Docking Bay 6, Celis replied. "Depart at once. Remember, the future of our dominion rests upon the success of this mission. Do not disappoint us." The warning was clear. Failure was not an option. As Nira marched toward the docking bay, her mind raced with plans and contingencies. Though she had studied what little intelligence they had on Terra, much remained unknown. But that didn't matter. She would succeed, as she always had. Their stealth cruiser gleamed under the harsh hangar lights, its angular design bristling with concealed weaponry and advanced sensor arrays. A crew of 5 elite warriors awaited her, snapping to attention as she approached. "At ease," she commanded. "Status report." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rhea, stepped forward. "All systems are green, Commander. We are ready for launch." Nira nodded. "Excellent. Board the ship. We depart within the hour." The journey to Terra took several days, even with their advanced warp drive. Nira drilled her crew relentlessly, preparing them for every possible scenario. They ran countless first-contact simulations, though she doubted the Terrans would pose much of a challenge. As they neared Terra's orbit, Nira gathered her crew for a final briefing. "We are here to observe, not engage," she reminded them. "Our stealth systems should keep us hidden from their primitive technology, but if we are detected, we abort immediately. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the bridge. Satisfied, she turned her gaze to the view screen, watching as the blue planet loomed larger. "Fascinating," mused Science Officer Lacera. "Their atmosphere is remarkably similar to our own. We should be able to breathe without assistance." "Noted," Nira replied. "But we maintain full environmental protocols until we confirm the absence of contaminants. Begin planetary scans. I want a secure landing site identified." For hours, they orbited the planet, collecting data and studying the movements of the indigenous population. Nira found herself grudgingly impressed by the diversity of Terra's ecosystems and sprawling cities. Perhaps these humans were not as primitive as she had assumed. Then, without warning, alarms blared. "Report!" Nira barked, springing to her feet. Rhea's hands flew over the console. "Massive power surge in our core systems. Propulsion is offline. We're caught in the planet's gravitational pull." Nira's mind raced. How could this happen? Their technology far surpassed anything the Terrans possessed, unless... "Could this be some kind of defense system we failed to detect?" she demanded. Lacera shook her head. "Negative, Commander. Readings suggest an internal malfunction, possibly triggered by the planet's unusual magnetic field. Naira clenched her fists. They were falling fast, and their options were limited. "Reroute all remaining power to emergency thrusters and stabilizers," she ordered. "Control our descent as much as possible. Target an unpopulated area." The next moments blurred into frantic activity as the crew fought to prevent disaster. Naira gripped the command chair, forcing herself to remain outwardly calm. With a bone-jarring impact, the ship crashed into Terra's surface, carving a deep trench through what appeared to be farmland. As the dust settled, Naira assessed the damage. "The ship is wrecked," Rhea reported grimly, a deep gash on her forehead. "Hull breaches in multiple sections. Power core is completely fried. We're stranded." Naira's jaw clenched. Not only had they failed their mission, they had no way home. "What about the emergency beacon?" she asked. Lysara shook her head. "Destroyed in the crash. We are completely cut off." Suppressing her rising frustration, Naira steadied her voice. "Then our priority is repairing the ship before we are discovered. Gather all functional equipment. We need to scout the area." Stepping out of the wreckage, she surveyed their surroundings. They had landed in an expanse of golden fields, interrupted only by distant farmhouses and patches of trees. The air was thick with foreign scents, and Naira silently thanked the filtration system in her armor. Then she heard it, a low rumble growing closer. A dust cloud appeared along a dirt path. "We have incoming," she called to her crew. "Take defensive positions." As they concealed themselves, Naira's hand hovered over her weapon. The vehicle, a crude wheeled transport, came to a halt. A single figure stepped out. Naira's eyes narrowed in surprise. It was a male, tall, broad-shouldered, with unruly dark hair. "Hello?" he called out, his voice deep. "Anyone hurt?" "Saw the crash from my farm and came to help." Naira exchanged a look with Rhea. This was an unforeseen complication. Protocol forbade contact with the natives, but given their circumstances, they might not have a choice. Making a snap decision, she stepped forward, weapon raised. "Stay where you are," she commanded, her translator converting her words. "No sudden moves." The human's eyes widened, but to his credit, he didn't flee. Instead, he slowly raised his hands in surrender. "Whoa," he said calmly. "I'm not here to cause trouble. Name's Jarek Holt. Just want to help." Naira studied him closely. He appeared unarmed, and his primitive transport showed no signs of advanced technology. Perhaps he could be useful. "You have repair skills?" she demanded. Jarek nodded. "I'm a mechanic. Been fixing machines all my life. Your, ship looks pretty busted, but I might be able to help," Rhea hissed from behind. "Commander, we cannot involve the locals. It's against protocol." Naira clenched her jaw. Protocol be damned. They needed repairs. "Very well, Jarek Holt," she said, lowering her weapon slightly. "You may assist us, but understand this. If you betray us, the consequences will be severe." To her surprise, Jarek only grinned. "Understood. But I gotta say, this is one hell of a first contact." Jarek actually grinned. "Wouldn't dream of it, Commander. To be honest, this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me. I promise, your secret's safe." As her crew set about preparing the ship for transport, Naira found herself watching Jarek more closely. There was something about his relaxed manner and easy smile that was both irritating and strangely compelling. She had always been taught that males were inferior, useful only for reproduction and labor, but this human challenged everything she had been raised to believe. She pushed the unsettling thoughts aside. They had a mission to complete, and she would not allow herself to be distracted by some primitive alien male, no matter how intriguing he might be. Little did Naira know that her encounter with Jarek Holt was about to change everything she thought she knew about herself, her people, and the true meaning of strength. The old barn creaked as Jarek worked tirelessly on the alien spacecraft, sweat beading on his forehead as he wiped grease from his hands. Nira watched from a distance, her sharp gaze never wavering. She marveled at his determination, his refusal to give up, even when faced with technology far beyond his comprehension. "You're staring again, Commander," Rhea murmured, materializing beside her. Nira bristled. "I am observing the human's progress, nothing more." Rhea smirked knowingly. "Of course, and I suppose his physical attributes have nothing to do with your observation." "Enough!" Nira snapped. "Focus on your tasks. We need to gather intelligence on Terra's defenses while we're stranded here." Rhea walked away, but Nira's gaze drifted back to Jarek. She couldn't deny there was something captivating about him, his resilience, his sharp mind, his... No. She shook her head, pushing the thoughts away. He was just a primitive. Nothing more. Jarek wiped his brow and caught Nira's stare. Flashing that infuriating grin of his, he said, "Making any progress over there, Commander? Or are you just enjoying the view?" Nira felt a flicker of heat rise to her cheeks, grateful that her physiology wouldn't betray her embarrassment. "I was merely assessing your primitive repair techniques, human. They are... intriguing." Jarek chuckled. "Primitive, huh? Well, this primitive just figured out how to bypass your fried power coupling. Give me another day and I might have your life support systems back online." Despite herself, Nira felt a flicker of admiration. "Impressive," she admitted grudgingly. "Perhaps there is more to you than meets the eye, Jarek Holt." His grin widened. "Oh, I'm full of surprises, Commander. Stick around. You might discover a few more." The suggestive undertone in his voice sent an unexpected shiver down Nira's spine. She turned away abruptly, unsettled by her own reaction. As the days passed, Nira found herself spending more time in Jarek's company, under the guise of supervising his work. She questioned him about Terra's culture, technology, and society. His answers left her both perplexed and intrigued. "You mean to tell me," she asked one evening as they shared a meal, "that your world has no unified government? That you are divided into hundreds of separate nations?" Jarek nodded, taking a bite of his sandwich. "Yep. Makes things complicated sometimes, but it also means we've got a lot of different perspectives, different ways of solving problems." Nira frowned. "But how do you maintain order? On Vora Prime, the tribunal ensures all citizens work toward the common good." "We muddle through," Jarek said with a shrug. "It's messy, but it makes us adaptable. Plus, freedom is kind of our thing. The idea of one ruling body controlling everyone doesn't sit well with most of us." Nira mulled over his words. The concept of individual freedom was foreign to her, yet she couldn't deny its appeal. On Vora Prime, every decision was dictated by duty. Was that truly the only way? As Jarek continued working on the ship, Nira's crew began venturing into the surrounding area, disguised as locals using holographic cloaking devices. They returned with unexpected discoveries. Lysara, their science officer, was fascinated by Terra's biodiversity. "Commander, you wouldn't believe the variety of life forms here and their efforts to preserve endangered species. It's remarkable." Even Rhea, usually dismissive of lesser civilizations, was impressed. "Their combat techniques are not without merit," she admitted after observing a local dojo. "There's a grace and efficiency to their movements I hadn't expected." Nira listened to their reports with growing unease. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Terra was meant to be a primitive world ripe for conquest, not a place of wonder and discovery. She tried to refocus on their mission, but her resolve wavered. One restless night, Nira found herself wandering into the barn. Jarek was still working, his face illuminated by the glow of alien tech. "Do you ever rest, human?" she asked, her tone softer than intended. Jarek looked up, smiling. "Not when there's work to be done. Besides, I'm having too much fun figuring this stuff out." Nira hesitated before stepping closer. "Why are you helping us, Jarek?" "You owe us nothing. By all rights, you should see us as a threat. Jarek set down his tools and turned to face her. Maybe I'm just an optimist. If aliens smart enough to cross the galaxy decide to talk instead of shoot, I figure that's a good sign. He smirked. Besides, I've always had a thing for beautiful space warriors. Naira's breath hitched. You find me attractive? The idea was strange to her. On Vora Prime, physical beauty was irrelevant compared to strength and skill. Jarek's expression softened. Nira, you're the most fascinating woman, hell, the most fascinating person I've ever met. You're brilliant, fierce, and yeah, absolutely stunning. How could I not be attracted to you? Before she could reply, Jarek stepped closer, cupping her cheek with surprising gentleness. Tell me if I'm out of line here, he murmured. Every instinct told Naira to pull away, to reassert control, but something deeper, something she couldn't name, held her in place. Their lips met, and Nira's world shifted. The kiss was unlike anything she had ever known, tender yet passionate, igniting sensations she had never imagined. Her arms wound around Jarek's neck of their own accord, pulling him closer. When they finally parted, both breathless, Nira stared at him in disbelief. What was that? She whispered. Jarek grinned. That, Commander, was a kiss. And if you'd like, it could be the start of something amazing. Nira knew she should refuse, knew she should push him away and recommit to her mission. But as she gazed into Jarek's warm brown eyes, she found herself whispering, "Show me more." What followed was a night of passion and discovery, unlike anything Nira had ever experienced. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be vulnerable, to simply feel. But as they lay tangled together, her mind raced. This changed everything. How could she lead an invasion against a world that had shown her kindness, against a people who had challenged everything she believed? And it wasn't just her. Over the past weeks, her crew had formed their own bonds. Lysara debated environmental policies with local scientists. Rhea sparred with Terran warriors, emerging with newfound respect for their skills. Even as Naira's feelings for Jarek deepened, she felt the weight of duty pressing down on her. The invasion fleet would be arriving soon. She had to choose: betray her people or condemn this world she had come to love. The decision was made for her one evening as she and Jarek sat watching the sunset. Her communicator, long thought dead, suddenly crackled to life. "Commander Nira," came the cold voice of High Adjudicator Celis. "Your silence has concerned us. Report immediately." Naira froze. Jarek squeezed her hand. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Nira looked into Jarek's eyes, seeing the trust and unwavering belief there. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. She raised her communicator. "High Adjudicator, this is Commander Naira. I regret to inform you that our mission has failed. Terra is not the primitive world we believed it to be. Any attempt at invasion will be met with fierce resistance." A long silence followed before Celis's voice returned, venomous and cold. "You disappoint me, Naira. Your emotions have clouded your judgment. The invasion will proceed as planned. You have 24 hours to submit yourself for disciplinary action or be branded a traitor." The transmission cut off. Naira turned to Jarek, her expression grim. "We don't have much time. If we're going to save your world, we need to act now." Jarek nodded, his jaw set. "Then let's get to work, Commander. Terra isn't going down without a fight." As they raced back to the barn to warn the others, Naira felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. She was about to betray everything she had ever known, to fight against her own people. But as she looked at Jarek, at this world that had shown her the true meaning of strength and love, she knew she was making the right choice. The battle for Terra was about to begin. The barn erupted into chaos as Naira relayed the dire news. Panic and disbelief flickered across her crew's faces. "This is madness!" Rhea exclaimed, fists clenched. "We can't stand against Vora Prime's fleet!" Lysera nodded. "Our technology surpasses anything on this planet. It will be a massacre!" Naira's eyes blazed with determination. "Perhaps in raw firepower, yes. But we have something Vora Prime doesn't. The element of surprise, and we know both sides. We can use that." Jarek stepped forward, resolve hardening his features. "Naira's right. We may be outgunned, but we're not beaten. Terra has faced impossible odds before. We'll find a way." As the group debated strategy, Naira found herself once again marveling at Jarek's unwavering strength. Unlike the rigid, calculated thinking of Vora Prime's military, Jarek's approach was adaptable, creative. Perhaps that was the real power of humanity. "Our first priority is to warn Terra's leaders," Nira declared. Jarek ran a hand through his hair. "That won't be easy. If we just show up claiming an alien invasion is coming, we're more likely to end up in a psych ward than the Pentagon." "What about your friend?" Lysera suggested. "The electronics expert you mentioned. Could he help us access global communications?" Jarek's eyes lit up. "Mitch! Yeah, if anyone can rig something up, it's him. Guy's a genius with computers, though, fair warning, he's a bit eccentric." Naira nodded. "Make the call. We'll need all the help we can get." As Jarek stepped outside, Naira turned to her crew. "I won't force any of you to fight against Vora Prime. If you wish to return and plead for leniency, I will understand." A heavy silence followed. Then, to Naira's surprise, it was Rhea who spoke first. "With all due respect, Commander," she said, flashing a fierce grin. "That's nonsense. We're in this together. Besides, I've grown rather fond of this backwater planet. Be ashamed to see it reduced to ash." One by one, the others voiced their agreement. Nira felt an unfamiliar swell of pride. Her crew had come a long way from the obedient, unyielding warriors they had once been. Jarek returned, a mix of excitement and trepidation in his eyes. "Mitch is in. He'll be here in an hour, with enough computer equipment to make NASA jealous. Fair warning, though, he's also bringing his entire collection of tinfoil hats. Says we'll need them to block alien mind control rays." Naira arched an eyebrow. "Is your friend stable?" Jarek chuckled. "Mitch? Oh, he's completely nuts. But he's also the best hacker I've ever met. If anyone can get us a direct line to the world's leaders, it's him." True to Jarek's word, Mitch arrived in a beat-up van, overflowing with equipment. A wiry man with wild hair, he took one look at Nira and her crew and let out a whoop of joy. "I knew it!" he cackled, practically dancing. "Aliens are real! Oh man, wait till I tell my online forums." Naira stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Under no circumstances are you to reveal our presence. The fate of your world depends on secrecy." Mitch's eyes widened. He mimed, zipping his lips. "Right. Mum's the word. Now, let's see about hacking some top-secret government channels, shall we?" For the next several hours, the barn was a flurry of activity. Mitch's fingers flew over his keyboard, muttering in technobabble. Naira and her crew assisted where they could, while Jarek coordinated with contacts to secure a safe house if needed. Finally, Mitch let out a triumphant yell. "We're in! I've got access to emergency broadcast systems worldwide. Whatever message you want to send, it'll go out to every TV, radio, and phone on the planet." Naira took a deep breath, the weight of 2 worlds on her shoulders. This was it. "Patch me through." As Mitch counted down, Naira felt Jarek's hand slip into hers. She met his gaze, drawing strength from the trust she found there. "You've got this," he murmured. "Just speak from your heart." The red light blinked on. "People of Terra," Naira began, her voice steady. "I am Commander Naira of Vora Prime. I come to you with an urgent warning and a plea for unity in the face of an unprecedented threat." She explained the impending invasion, her voice growing stronger. But there is hope, she continued. In my time on your world, I have witnessed the incredible resilience, courage, and compassion of humanity. These are strengths my people have forgotten in our pursuit of military dominance. They are the key to your survival, and perhaps to our redemption. Across the globe, her words were heard. People stood frozen, listening in awe and fear. I ask now for your trust, she said. The next 24 hours will determine the fate of both our worlds. Stand together. Show my people the true strength of humanity, and we may yet forge a future of peace. The transmission ended. Silence hung in the barn. Then Jarek's phone rang, and rang, and rang. Guys, he said, staring at the screen. I think the president is trying to call me. The hours that followed were a whirlwind. Governments scrambled to verify Naira's claims. Military forces mobilized. Scientists were consulted. A global defense was assembled, part human ingenuity, part salvaged Vora Prime technology. Then, as the deadline approached, the sky rippled, and the first warships of the invasion fleet emerged. Naira stood on a hilltop, flanked by Jarek and Earth's military leaders. They're hailing us, an officer reported. Naira squared her shoulders. Patch them through. Celis's face materialized, twisted in fury. Traitor, she spat. You dare stand with these primitives against your own people? Naira met her gaze unflinchingly. I stand for what is right. Terra is not a simple conquest. These people have a strength you don't understand. Celis sneered. Pretty words won't save them. You misunderstand me, Naira replied, a small smile forming. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to remind you of who we used to be. With a nod to Jarek, she activated the broadcast, flooding the enemy fleet with images of Earth, its beauty, its struggles, its love. For the first time, Vora Prime's warriors hesitated. The battle for Terra had begun, but it would not be fought with weapons. It would be fought with hope. The silence that followed Naira's broadcast stretched across the battlefield, heavy with anticipation. On one side stood Terra, its people united for the first time in history, armed with nothing but determination and hope. On the other, the vast Vora Prime fleet, their weapons primed for destruction, yet their resolve now uncertain. Inside the command ship, Matriarch Daxara, supreme ruler of Vora Prime, watched the transmission in silence. She had long ruled with the belief that strength came from conquest, from the unyielding discipline of her people. But as she gazed at the images of Terra's beauty, its resilience, and the unshakable bond between Naira and the human standing at her side, doubt crept into her heart. Enough. Her voice, though quiet, carried the weight of command. The war room fell still. Celis turned sharply. Matriarch, we are prepared to strike. Give the order, and Terra will fall before night's end. Daxara's piercing gaze met Celis's. And then what? She asked. We raze their cities? Subjugate a people who have already won a battle we failed to even recognize? Celis bristled. They are weaker than us. No, Daxara corrected, her tone final. They are stronger in ways we have forgotten. She turned back to the screen, where Naira stood defiantly, Jarek at her side. A commander who had once been among Vora Prime's most promising warriors, now standing in defense of an alien world, not with fear, not with desperation, but with love. Daxara exhaled slowly. Then, she made her decision. Stand down. A ripple of shock spread through the war room. Celis's face darkened with fury. You can't be serious. The matriarch's expression hardened. I have spoken. She turned her gaze toward the planet below. Patch me through to Commander Naira. A moment later, Naira's communicator crackled to life. Jarek stiffened at her side, tension coiling in his body. The entire world seemed to hold its breath. Then, the voice came through. This is Matriarch Daxara of Vora Prime. Commander Naira, you have defied your people, your training, and your very nature. You have chosen another path. A pause. Then, with something almost like admiration, she added, "And I am listening." Naira exchanged a look with Jarek, hope flickering in her eyes. She raised the communicator to her lips and took a steady breath. "Then let's talk." The war was over before it could begin. The world was forever changed. The once inevitable invasion had turned into the foundation of something entirely new, a fragile but hopeful alliance. As Vora Prime's fleet withdrew, diplomatic channels were established, and for the first time in history, humans and warriors from the stars sat at the same table. Not as enemies, but as equals. At the heart of it all was Naira, the warrior who had once come to conquer but had instead chosen to protect, and by her side, unwavering, was Jarek Holt. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they stood together atop the same hill where they had made their stand. "You did it," Jarek murmured, watching the stars begin to flicker into view. "You changed everything." Naira turned to him, a soft smile on her lips. "We did." Jarek chuckled. "So what now, Commander?" Naira exhaled, gazing at the endless sky. A sky she had once seen as nothing more than another battlefield, another conquest waiting to happen. Now, it was something else, something infinite. "Now," she said, reaching for his hand, "now we see what else the universe has to offer." And with that, their next adventure began. The end.